Good evening. I would like to call the City of Mount Vernon City Council meeting to order for August 14th, 2024. The time is now 7:01. Will you please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 1C is the roll call of council members. I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Councilmember Beaton? Here. Councilmember Brocksmith?
Here.
Councilmember Correas?
Here.
Councilmember Hudson?
Here.
Councilmember Molinar?
Here.
Councilmember Tesoro?
Here.
Councilmember Vanderstoep?
Present.
Thank you, Becky. We are approving or not approving tonight's meeting agenda. Any proposed changes to the agenda, or is there a motion to adopt it, council?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Navor, second by Gary. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. All right, item 3 tonight is community comments. If anyone is present in council chambers tonight that would like to address council, come on down. Ask that you would. Okay, no community comments tonight. We will move on. Item 4 is tonight's consent agenda, and it includes meeting minutes, payroll checks, wire transfers, claims, and 4 renewing or budgeted agreements that council does have information on. Would council like to move for adoption, or would you like to amend the consent agenda?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion by Richard, second by Navor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. All right, motion passes. Are we on to reports? Did I get ahead of myself? No. We're on to reports. Committee reports tonight. Council held its Public Works and Library Committee at 6 o'clock tonight, and Councilmember Molinar has all the details, or a few of them, on that meeting. Councilmember Molinar.
Okay, we opened the meeting tonight at 6 o'clock after the approval of the July 10th, 2024 minutes. Isaac Huffman, our librarian, gave us an update. There's some great things happening in the library. About a month, the most of the inside will be done in the library. The library will be closed on September 6th to move everything out of the old one into the new one. As right now, we will have a September 28th ribbon cutting, and the library will be officially open and fully open on October 7th. Next, he gave us some updates on what's going on in the library. Apparently, we have a new addition to the library, which is a Ukrainian collection that is available in the book form. We've also had some great events that have happened over the summer. Birds of Prey, Touch a Truck, summer reading. And there was also, we were able to put out almost $3,500 worth of reading materials into our community. There was story time in the park, tie-dyeing shirts and scarves with the community. Outreach also included being at the fair, Boys and Girls Club, and Arts and Crafts Festival. Currently, they're taking applications for a murder mystery that is going to be held at the library. There are already 96 teams that have already signed up, and that will be closing soon. So if you want to do that, now is the time. Second part of the meeting, we moved into some of the things with surface water and Skagit Highlands Detention Pond monitoring. A 40-foot deep monitoring well was drilled on the slide slope of Skagit Highlands between the upper and lower ponds on Monday, July 22nd. This monitoring well will give us a geotechnical engineer's information about the groundwater, which will be used to determine if a dewatering system needs to be put in. Second, we talked about the municipal Phase 2 stormwater permit reissuance. A new Department of Ecology Western Washington Municipal Stormwater Permit became effective on August 1st, 24. The 5-year cycle runs from the 2024 to 2029. There are several new permit requirements, including increased street sweeping, tree canopy policies, stormwater management, action planning, mapping, and identification of overburdened communities. Then had a discussion about Cedar Heights conveyance channel repair. They had some issues with erosion, and that was fixed on August 5th and 6th. See here. Then Frank Reinhardt gave us an update on Riverside Drive and improvements. Design is at 60% milestone and is not yet submitted by the NEPA. The city was notified by Trans Tech Engineer, which we are working with, that is dissolving into David Evans and Associates. And this is a huge issue for us because Trans Tech is the lead prime consultant for these two different projects. Trans Tech is also the disadvantaged business and enterprise required for this for federally funded design phase. The Trans Tech project manager and other key staff have been leaving the company, and these projects require the federal professional services agreement rather than our agreement negotiations. So we're definitely working through that. I think what they're going to do is do some selected, like the following steps to most efficiently way to resolve the difficulties, and it seems to be still coming within the time work of the projects that are going to be started very soon. So LaVenture Road sidewalk improvements finished 30% design review by staff, proceeding to 60% milestone. They're reviewing bus stop relocation options with Skagit Transit and on schedule for spring 2025 advertisement for bids, TIB funding and deadline. Combined, let's see here, ADA transition plan, restart, consultants restart kickoff, and first transit coordination meeting is in July. They're reviewing revised schedules, and there will be a fall-winter council briefing on this issue. Lastly, we had Andy Hansen, our solid waste, give us an update on our solid waste rate increase, and that will be on tonight's agenda. And we close the meeting at 6:58.
All right, thanks, Gary. I had someone ask recently what the committee reports are during our council meetings. Why is it that council members are reporting out? For our longtime viewers, both of you, no, for our longtime viewers, you know what's going on. For those of you who might be new to city council meetings, Mount Vernon City Council made a decision a number of years ago to include all of our council members on every committee rather than just a couple of them. And so the first Wednesday of every month at 6 o'clock is our public safety committee. And we have our fire chief and our police chief and others brief all of council on what's going on with public safety. The second week is we've combined public works with library. That's one committee. The third Wednesday of every month is development services. And then the fourth Wednesday of every month is our finance department and parks update council. And so there's a chair for each one of those. Each council member takes a turn chairing those, and then they report out in the council meeting. So that's what these are. Council has found that that's a more efficient way to inform everyone all at once, for all of council to be engaged in what's going on in the city and to be active in making those decisions. And realistically, it makes our city council meetings go a little bit faster because everyone is mostly on the same page by the time we get together on second and fourth Wednesdays at 7 for our regular council meetings. That's what we're doing here today. So I'm not gonna stop the progress here. We got 2 more to go. We held a Finance and Parks Committee on July 24th, and Councilmember Mary Hudson chaired that. Mary.
Actually, I'm going to defer to Councilmember Beaton because I was ill that evening.
You didn't share that.
And she took it over for me.
Thank you for doing that. Councilmember Melissa Beaton's gonna cover that one.
I'll try to wrap this up in the next 15 minutes. Yeah, we had a Parks and Enrichment Committee meeting. Our Parks Department is led by our fearless Director, Jennifer Berner, and she reported out about 4 fabulous, fantastic free events in the community. The first one is our 4th of July celebration that's held at Edgewater Park and the River Walk. There was 20 minutes of fireworks that started around 10:15 with approximately 4,000 in attendance. I hear it was a fantastic show. Next up, on July 13th, we had Touch a Truck. That was also held at Edgewater Park. Participants included all city vehicles from parks, streets, solid waste, fire, police, and the library. Outside agencies included PSE, Skagit Transit, and Skagit County Search and Rescue. This was a first-time event that was well-attended with about 2,000 people in attendance. The kids loved it, so I'm sure we're bringing that back. Then we had on the 27th, the Youth Arts Festival at Hillcrest Park. All the activities for that are free. There was a bouncy house, 19 different art booths to create fun, free projects, entertainment, and infamous wood turners making the favorite wood tops for everyone. So I haven't been there, so I hope I got that right. And then on August 6th, we had National Night Out. That was also held at Edgewater Park. It's a coordinated effort between police and parks. A variety of fun booths. There was an archery range run by the Silver Arrow Bowmen's Club. And I just want to say that if you don't know about the Silver Arrow Bowmen's Club, that is a wonderful little organization that's tucked on the south side of Little Mountain off of, is it Hickox Road? Hickox Road, at the end of Hickox Road. So check that out sometime. And then there were food booths that were also available. It was a great event for the whole family. There's also a parks mapping project that staff has been working on. So the park staff has been working with GIS to develop park maps that can be viewed online for the larger parks that are more up to date than what you might get if you did, say, a Google search. So that includes Little Mountain, Kiwanis, Edgewater, Bakerview, and Hillcrest. The next step is to include interactive trail maps with a trail tour and a gallery of photos. You might have heard that we had a fire at Bakerview Park at the restroom there on the 5th of July. Right now, it's unusable, unfortunately. There are portable toilets and a portable handheld washing station. The fire was started in the trash cans and quickly moved into the building, but with our fabulous fire department, they were quick to contain the fire, and the building incurred significant damage, and by significant, well over $500,000, so that's a shame. Staff is working on collecting quotes for the fire and water restoration and the reconstruction work that will be needed. It's going to be costly. Then we slipped in a little bit of finance information from Doug Valesky, our finance director. We talked about our utility lien process and an update. We have a contracted attorney who is no longer able to assist with that. So we're going to be getting an updated lien process. Currently, there's about 2.6% of our accounts that have liens. The city's in the process of developing an RFP to acquire legal services so that we can bring those accounts current. Then we had a brief ARPA funding discussion. Let's see, as of the end of 2023, the city has spent about $5.6 million of the $9 million that the city received. There will be about $2 million remaining that the city must spend or obligate by the end of 2024, and I think we're in a very good track to do that, so that's good. We did have a spending plan presented, and we had discussions on that, and then with that, we adjourned shortly before 7 for our council meeting.
All right, thank you, Melissa. Now, the next thing I have on here is public safety meeting, which was last week. You were here
Yes.
for that, right?
No, Mary took over for that.
Yeah, no.
Wouldn't surprise me.
I did that too.
That was only a week ago, and I can remember that.
Yeah, but I had you looking at her, didn't I? So first up, we got an update from our fire department. Right now, we're looking at, with the renovations wrapping up on fire stations 3 and 2, we're now turning our attention to fire station 1. We have an RFQ process that we have gone through, and architects McKenzie Inc. have been selected through that process. An agreement should be presented, I believe, tonight. So we did talk about the RFQ process, the current and future needs of the station, and council's involvement with that. Then we got a quick little update on Fire Station 2. The project is nearing completion. Move-in date is the end of September, September 26th, and we'll have a ribbon-cutting ceremony, open house sometime in October. Staffing for the department, we talked about that. We are down 1 firefighter and 1 paramedic. We have a firefighter who is projected to retire in February, and we also have a fire prevention specialist leaving in August. So, well, I guess that's now, it is August. Staff will initiate the new civil service list for those positions. We then briefly talked about the 2025 budget, and that will include 6 additional positions to operational staff. Added staff will increase the addition of another medical unit that will be staffed 24/7. These staff will be funded by the EMS levy, and we want to thank you for your support, and we look forward to the continued delivering that excellent service and the jobs that creates. We also got an update on what the calls look like, just to kind of, why do we need these 6 additional positions? From January 1 through July 31st in 2021, our calls for service were 3993. Each year, they've gradually gone up, and for the first 7 months of this year, it's 4922. So we're close to 1,000 more calls. And then we were also advised that the department recently purchased 2 F-150 vehicles. And then we got an update on a combined police and fire 4th of July update. Let's see. We heard about the preparations in the weeks leading up to the 4th of July, education that was out there in the community, the types and number of calls and staffing. We also talked about future strategies about what we potentially might be looking at. Police responded to 72 total calls for service. 38 were self-initiated by the police department who located fireworks. 6 citations were issued. 31 warnings were given to addresses. 7 confiscations of illegal fireworks. Those are the ones that go up and blow up. And we also had, they also had additional staffing on 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. That included an additional sergeant and 4 additional officers. The total fireworks calls from June 28th through 7/20 through 7/5. So it's about a week there where they measure it every year. In 2020, it was 135. 2021, it was an all-time high of 137. Dipped down in 2022 to 94, even a little lower in 2023 of 65, and then shot back up this year of 128. Total fireworks calls on the 4th, 2019, there were 43. They went up, kept going up. 2023 was 73, and then we dipped back down this year to 64, so that's good. We then had a request for a committee agenda request to discuss the impacts of design standards in the city that the city has and the ability to provide police and fire service. And then miscellaneous, council were handed a packet of our 1590 applications along with scoring sheets. We reviewed our process timeline, and after a lengthy discussion, council was in favor of eliminating the committee review process, which we had previously thought we're planning on doing. We also discussed funding for operations and maintenance, small projects, and project location requirements. And then also tonight on the agenda, we'll see a North Sound Behavioral Health Funding Renewal Agreement, and we adjourned at 7:44. I'm sure I got that done in less than I said I would.
Impressive. Thank you for those committee updates, council members, and again, for our public, those committees are Wednesdays at 6 o'clock, and they're right here at the Mount Vernon Police Court campus. You can catch the highlights, of course, in our meetings with the committee reports, but those are a way to stay informed. The agendas are available on the city website ahead of time at mountvernonwa.gov. Item 5B tonight is open mic for council members. It's not called that, but it should be. Any council member comments this evening?
Quick
Yes.
comment. I'd like to direct my comment. Stacy, Director Kreshner, thank you for responding to my email about the comprehensive plan. A quick question that I had, though, is that a link that we can disseminate to whoever in order to take a look at that comprehensive plan?
Absolutely, yeah. That link is available and open to the public. And just for the sake of council and for the sake of the listening public tonight, we also have a link to our 2025 comp plan update process. And so we're starting to build that website with the help of OTAC and getting that started. Great question.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Good question. Yes, the comprehensive plan will have an extensive public participation process, so the public can look on the city's website as we develop that plan and find out how to be a part of it. Other council member comments? All right, we will move on to mayor's report. And I guess first off, wanted to share some exciting news that on Monday, the North Star Initiative, you've heard a little bit about the North Star. That's an effort, a conglomeration of leaders, the 4 largest cities in Skagit County, along with county commissioners and Skagit County Public Health. The North Star, on Monday, we broke ground on a 48-bed inpatient stabilization center for mental health and addiction treatment in Skagit County. That is huge news. It will be called the Skagit County Crisis Stabilization Center, or STAR Center. Everything needs an acronym. The STAR Center. And it will finally provide some much-needed services for folks in our community who are experiencing crises. So these folks who may have currently are ending up in expensive hospital beds or expensive jail cells, because presently those are kind of the only places that can accept them. So largely. So soon the STAR Center will provide our law enforcement, our social workers, and our community at large with a meaningful alternative for behavioral health and addiction treatment. And we say, yes, it is about time, but solutions like this do require an immense amount of coordination and cooperation at the state and local level. So we thank our state representatives for making some of that funding available and for the collaboration of this city council and other city councils and city leaders in the North Star project. That North Star initiative, in the next slide, there's a web address that you can take a look at and find out more about it. It includes the mayors of the 4 cities. Of course, it includes support, has to include support from all 4 city councils, especially Mount Vernon City Council members who have been supportive, and again, the 3 commissioners. We are committed to taking on and tackling some tough issues in our communities, like behavioral health, homelessness, and housing, just to name a few. So issues that none of us can solve as cities on our own. We need to combine resources and actually make a meaningful impact on these things. So that is what we are working on in the North Star, and you can find out more about it at northstarskagit.org. On to a quick Library Commons update. Councilmember Molinar gave you some info. Here's some pictures to go with it. On the left, you can see the rooftop, or level 4, as we refer to it. The parking coating. It's a picture of a parking coating, and that's exciting now. I decided because it's done. That's why it's exciting. But you can also see the solar array there. That'll make for some nice shaded parking, but it also helps to power the building to about, I think it covers the solar array there, and on the south side of the building covers close to 21% of the building's overall power demand. So that's awesome stuff. We don't always show photos of bathrooms, but when we do, it's to show you the nice tile design that's been installed, and that's an almost finished bathroom, and that's good news too. On the next slide, you can see on the left the remainder of the brick masonry being installed on the exterior. That's going to be back behind the glass panels that'll be installed on those metal frames, and that started this morning, the glass panel installation. So you're going to see a change in the facade there. That'll be exciting and give it a little more of a finished look. On the right, we go inside the library to see that the collection shelving is already in place in there, and we are looking forward to a community ribbon cutting ceremony. Get out that phone calendar on Saturday, September 28th at 10 a.m. Before that, Mayor's Coffee. We will have Mayor's Coffee again Thursday, August 29th at Hillcrest Park. We're going to try it outside. We'll see how the weather cooperates. We'll do it at the courtyard there at the lodge. If you haven't been to a Mayor's Coffee before, it's an opportunity for you to come and ask questions of me and the staff at the city, share your concerns, your ideas. Last time, just to give you an idea, we talked about potholes, we talked about zoning, we talked about parks, public safety. We had a really good discussion, and I'm looking forward to more of that on the 29th at Hillcrest, and that is your mayor's report for August 14th, 2024. Item D tonight is committee agenda requests. Council, anything you want to see on an upcoming agenda that isn't or might not be there? Okay. Move on. Item 6 on the agenda is new business. Here we go. Under new business, item A is a presentation from Volunteers of America, and Special Projects Manager Steve Sexton will introduce our guest this evening.
Yep, thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. So just a brief background on coordinated entry. Coordinated entry is an established process to quickly and equitably coordinate the access, assessment, prioritization, and referrals to housing and services for people experiencing or at imminent risk of experiencing homelessness. And on February 1st of this year, most of you are probably aware, Western Washington Volunteers of America took over the coordinated entry process in Skagit County. And this evening, we are lucky to have Chuck Messenger, the Program Director for Volunteers of America Coordinated Entry, to come give a presentation. So Chuck, if you want to come on up, I'll get this fired up and ready to go for you. And that is all yours. Oh, sorry, I plagiarized.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, Chuck.
Again, Chuck Messenger, Volunteers of America, Western Washington. I'm your friendly neighborhood program manager for the coordinated entry system. I tried to ensure that whatever we did today, it kind of encapsulate. I have a tendency to get pretty loquacious, so I've controlled myself with some specific instructions on how to proceed today. But I did most of this with visual aids, so hopefully everybody can follow along. Thank you, Steve, for the introduction. So one of the blessings that we have year over year with the coordinated entry system is from the previous contractor, we actually have access to the numbers as far as how many individuals and how many households were actually enrolled in the housing interest pool. Now, this isn't a reflection of everybody that's in the coordinated entry system. This is everybody that is currently homeless in the coordinated entry system. So these numbers are you can see an ebb and flow, a jump and a decline month over month. We're hoping that some of the systems that we've been able to put in place over the course of the next 6 months will see probably a little bit more of a gradual movement. There's peak months where people typically will contact the coordinated entry system looking for services. When it gets hot, when it gets cold, makes sense. The one thing you will note, though, is that there's a big difference between last year, year over year, the difference between the total number of active households and the total number of active individuals in the system. So this tells us that we have more families that are being displaced, or at the very least, more families that are engaged in coordinated entry services. Speaking to that, these numbers are not of great importance. Together, they're of great importance because what we've been able to do is, rather than waiting for folks to be exited naturally, programmatically from the coordinated entry system, we've got a system in place now where we're actually trying to contact everybody before they're exited. The process has changed over the course of the last couple of years as far as the expected number of times, or the timeline that clients need to contact us to make sure that they let us know that they still want to be in the system. Relatively good checks and balances process now. Again, that reflects back to these numbers, and that's how hopefully we'll see a little bit more of a flat line. It'll give us a better understanding month to month of what the actual needs are. Now, this is a work in progress, but I wanted to share this today even though it's not completely fleshed out. We've got a couple of folks on our team that are focusing diligently on trying to collect and capture more data. And with Volunteers of America, we want to make sure that this data is completely transparent. We want to make sure that we're moving towards getting it put on our website, and we've been talking to the county about including this information on their website as well. But we'll be able to provide a month-to-month breakdown, full understanding, full scope, much more information than is included here. But, so anybody in the general public can know how many people are engaged in the coordinated entry system, what the prioritization scores are. That's where the client is assessed as far as their vulnerability, having that understanding of where we're sitting on a month-to-month basis with clients. The age of clients that are exited, substance use disorder, self-reported, household types, comparison of demographics to the actual population of the county. We're getting pretty expansive with this. I'm impressed with the person that's doing this because it's well above my knowledge of Excel or how to transfer data. But our hopes is that by making that information transparent, when there are potential trends that our team don't see, there's a discerning eye out there in the public that might be able to come to us and say, hey, I noticed this. So what we're trying to do is make sure that when we're advising our partner agencies and working with elected officials and working with the county, that we're helping to guide potential housing solutions in the right direction for the demographic that needs it. This is something that I threw together, and it's to get a better understanding of the coordinated entry system. We manage the coordinated entry system, which is one program within the homeless management information system database. Every partner or most partner agencies, anybody that's receiving state or federal funds is engaged in the HMIS database as well, and they have their own programs. Historically, Skagit County has had, unfortunately, really low numbers as far as data quality goes, and that is not a direct reflection of the prior contractor. It's something that's ran across all of the partner agency programs. But the coordinated entry manager, myself, doesn't typically have access to the data from all those other programs. I've been able to get it, just enough, so that I can work towards training those partner agencies on how to clean up their data quality so we can produce better numbers for the county. You'll see on here, positive, negative outcomes. This is based on HUD standards as far as, these are exits from all programs within the HMIS system for Skagit County. What's reflected in green month over month is the positive outcomes. That's what HUD defines as a permanent solution. So owned home, rental with a subsidy, no subsidy, permanent stay with family, permanent stay with friends. The red is negative outcomes, which is everything else. It's not a permanent solution. But I generated this for the purposes of today to kind of show our commitment to that data quality issue. The total data quality issues at exit, so this is like data not collected or exit interview not completed or just a lack of information on how clients are being exited. We've seen a very dramatic reduction over the course of the last few months, and I would like to attribute that to the trainings that we've been doing with the partner agencies. There's also some data quality issues to manage internally. The fact that we've got all these different programs within the system, there was a lot of duplication of files. So a specific person could potentially be in the HMIS system with different identifiers. We've identified a number of folks that we had to remove those duplications. I'll just leave the number alone. The other thing that we did is I sent a survey out to all the partner agencies because I'm really curious. I don't want sunshine and rainbows. I want to know what we need to work on. And we sent a survey out to all of our partner agencies, gave them a few weeks to provide us information, and we got responses from 10 agencies, which is kind of the base that I needed to make decisions moving forward. However, in generating my first survey in this program, I worded this very poorly. Client accessibility to services can be misinterpreted. Client access to coordinated entry is what I was going for. Client access to services within coordinated entry, it's a whole nother ball of wax. We don't have any housing, we don't have any rental assistance, we're limited on the number of resources that are available to clients, so the perception of this question was kind of skewed. Oops, you learn. But I will say that the poor and fair feedback that we received was specific to that fact that there are no or there's minimal resources that are currently available to folks within the system. They're good, very good. I guess we're doing all right. Second question we asked was total response time from coordinated entry provider to any questions, any concerns. Saw a good trend there. The only concerns that were reflected in responses that we received had more to do with call time, hold time that we had with our 211 call center. When we first took over, it was ginormous. We're talking like 45 minutes. But we were still in the process of hiring all the people that we needed for the position, training people for those positions. Now, keep in mind that our call center staff actually does the coordinated entry system for Snohomish County as well. 2 entirely different systems, 2 entirely different processes. So it was literally like trying to teach Mandarin Chinese to someone like me. It's impossible, but we did it. And we've gotten our call times down to actually on average, about 3 minutes. Which is really good considering an intake takes about 45 minutes to complete. So from a management perspective internally with the calls within the call center, distributing those calls to make sure that they're well balanced so the call center has the opportunity to be more timely in their responses. Good job, team. Communication with coordinated entry staff. That looks like a generic graph there. We didn't really get any poor feedback on this one. We didn't get any feedback from the person that provided us fair as a response. Nothing but good feedback. Trainings with the coordinated entry staff. I hate seeing that poor, but it's justified. It's somebody that I didn't get a chance to train. What we did at the time of the transition over the first few months is we actually conducted a comprehensive intake training with all the partner agencies to make sure that they had a full understanding of any differences that changed between the old contractor and us, as well as some modifications that we made. I do those in person. I'm not a Zoom guy. Zoom is strange. However, that poor response on this one suggested we should do a Zoom call. So that's the way I'm going to be able to accommodate them, is to at least have hybrid trainings. I think it's important to have those trainings in person between partner agencies because you can be a little bit more collaborative, ensure that there's more of an open dialogue and work to solutions while doing the training. I was asked to put this on here, and I'm not going to speak to any of it. It's just, that's all the sunshine and rainbows responses from folks. The fifth question that we had on the survey was just tell us more. And that's what you see. So I thought I'd speak to some of our other successes while I have this as a beautiful background. Let's see. The addition of the 211 call center obviously has provided an alternate means for clients to engage with coordinated entry. Partner agencies continue to provide in-person services for folks that the phone is not the best option. We've introduced the 18 to 24 demographic to the standard coordinated entry process. That had traditionally been kind of funneled through a side door into the HMIS system because there were specific funds and services that were available to the 18 to 24 demographic. I argued that 18 to 24 demographic is not necessarily a protected class, and they should have equitable access to all the services that are provided. It was a quick and easy argument. The county approved, Commerce approved. We made it so. It also helps us to get a better demographic understanding of all adults that are in need. Let's see, we were among the first counties, this took some lobbying, but we were among the first counties to be approved for a secure data transfer methodology. Most agencies statewide were still sending things by smoke signal and interpretive dance and fax and pagers, I think. But over time, obviously, technology has improved. There's always a fear about, with HIPAA, transferring client-sensitive information over the interwebs. We did actually build a system within SharePoint that's incredibly secure, Commerce approved. Now we have a quick, easy access solution for our partner agencies to get information on clients that are transferring client-sensitive data. We're drawing drawing attention to the opportunity for local solutions rather than a complete reliance on state and federal funding. We've all seen the ebb and flow in available resources from pre-COVID, but COVID was a let's throw all the money on Band-Aid solutions. We got lots of money, lots of opportunity that kind of went away over time. I will say it's incredibly difficult as a housing case manager to be passionate about trying to provide housing solutions for people when there's no available options. We've already begun the dialogue about the point-in-time count. I think we all here understand the importance of the point-in-time count for the general audience that I can't see in front of me. The point-in-time count is the day that we try to collect as much information on folks that are currently unhoused to provide those specific numbers to the powers that be to determine what state and federal grants and funds are funneled into the county. There's been suggestions that that there's opportunities for, capturing more data. I think by taking away the streamlining of going with a map and, just sending people out in the hopes of finding people, we're trying to target specific demographics and work with different partner agencies or different stakeholders in the market, McKinney-Vento liaisons to focus on families that are unhoused. Working with the Spanish-speaking population, I've been working with the Tri-Parish Food Bank, the farm workers, Iris Northwest, trying to get more people that not only speak Spanish, but can help reduce that the concern that most Spanish-speaking populations have about sharing their sensitive information. So we're really hoping, those are just a couple of examples, but we're hoping to capture more data by expanding our horizons a little bit. Silos. We've always seen silos in social services. I think we're starting to see a lot of those go away, and I think a lot of it just comes from an absolute need to provide services to the clients that we have in this market. We have incredibly limited resources right now, and in traveling the county and getting to know all the partner agencies, I've been blessed to have those conversations with partner agencies and kind of identify, okay, we're talking about this client. This client sounds like a good fit for this service. Have you talked to this agency? Oh, we've never worked with that agency before. Okay, we're having coffee. I've had a lot of coffee, including today. You can't tell in my voice. Here's the last question I threw on here because I know everybody just wants to know how social services sees our need for how to address housing security issues. I don't think I need to read all of these. I did put one in bold at the bottom that I thought was very pertinent. It doesn't matter who the contractor is that manages the coordinated entry system if there has been no change in housing availability in the county. We need to do a better job of providing both short-term and long-term housing solutions. I think we're working towards it. I've been, trying to partake in all the conversations surrounding the comp plans throughout the county. I think we've got lots of long-term growth opportunities. I see the direction that we're going. I would argue, though, and this is a personal argument, and I don't want to put this as a footnote and stomp out of here, but as a housing services manager for Opportunity Council up in Whatcom County, last year I saw 23 people that I worked with personally die. These are 23 unhoused clients in Whatcom County that I personally worked with. So if there's a reason why I'm as passionate as I am, that's a big reason. I don't want to see the same thing in my home. I think we need to make sure that we're focusing on short-term solutions as well. We've had those conversations, a lot of us individually, but I want to make sure that that's a focal point moving forward. Volunteers of America is doing our best to improve and expand on the services locally. Now we just need solutions. That's where I'll stop. Any questions?
Questions for Chuck?
Thanks, Chuck.
Chuck, thanks for the work that you're doing.
Yeah,
And that was
absolutely.
a hopeful presentation. I appreciate it.
High
Thanks
hopes.
for being here.
High hopes. Thank you.
Thanks, Chuck.
Item 6B tonight is a request to close some streets. Jennifer is closing streets and taking names. Got a bunch of them tonight.
Line up.
Jennifer Berner, our Parks Director, is here with this item.
Okay, so we do have 5 street closures for you this evening, so we'll just take them one at a time. Our first one is for Brewfest, and this is for an event that it will be on Saturday, September 7th. This event has happened in the past out at Edgewater Park. This year, due to some of the improvements that we're doing out at Edgewater Park and the time date that we needed to start that, this event has been moved and will be taking place over by Commercial Cold Storage in their parking lot area over there. And so the closure that staff is recommending is for South First Street from Snoqualmie Street to West Kincaid and West Broadway from Cleveland to South First Street from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. on Saturday, September 7th. And you should have the map in your packet that you guys received. So hopefully that all makes sense. So staff is recommending to approve the recommended closure. If you have any questions, more than happy to answer those.
Questions for the Brewfest closure?
Do these all at once?
We're gonna do them all at once.
Okay.
And unless you want to pull any out specifically, but we'll have an opportunity for questions on each?
Each one,
Perfect.
yes.
So we're on Brewfest, September 7th.
Okay.
Council likely will have a meeting that Saturday, and we're gonna rush to get out of it for Brewfest.
So we'll just hold I'll hold all of the recommendations for the end and we'll do one vote at the end? Or do you want to do them, would that work, or do you want to do them individually?
I believe we can do them as one, if council's comfortable with that.
Okay, so the last one, I'll save that line. So the second request is for Hoop for the Valley. This is an exciting new event that we have coming to Mount Vernon for Saturday, August 24th and Sunday, August 25th. Hoop Fest is a 3-on-3 basketball tournament brought to Mount Vernon by Hoop for the Valley LLC. The event will host youth and adult basketball teams, and the temporary basketball courts will be brought to the Commercial Cold Storage parking lot, so they're going to be using the Commercial Cold Storage parking lot, and then the city parking lot to the north of the Commercial Cold Storage building there. And for the safety of all of the participants, staff is requesting the closure of basically the same streets as for Brewfest, just a little bit longer in the street closures. So it's for South First Street between Snoqualmie Street and West Kincaid Street, and West Broadway Street. I cannot say that word this evening, so bear with me, please. From Cleveland Avenue to First Street, and Main Street from West Kincaid Street to Pine Street from 6 a.m. Saturday, August 24th to 9 p.m. on Sunday, August 25th. And any questions in regards to that particular event? It's a new event, so. Okay.
Questions about this 3-on-3 tournament?
Exciting.
Outstanding opportunity for folks to come down to our downtown, for this to potentially be an ongoing annual event that grows. I've heard there are already 65 teams of
awesome.
3 to 4 people, which is really exciting. So,
We have some of our Parks members sign up for a team, so.
And mayors?
Let,
I think it closed today,
if
possibly.
you jump online now.
But jump online
City Council?
and see.
Council team?
actually, it's a wonderful opportunity to see our mayor compete with other 19-year-olds.
Other than- Anyway, next item.
And the next one is Temperate Habits is doing their anniversary celebration again this year for Saturday, August 17th. From 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. The event celebrates their 4th anniversary, and they will provide live entertainment and a beer garden in Gate Street adjacent to their establishment. The street closure is Gate Street on Saturday, August 7th from 10 to 10 p.m. I didn't have to say Broadway.
Nice.
Any questions on that one? Okay. And the Library Commons grand opening, which we've heard a couple times about already this evening. So that again is Saturday, September 28th. So the grand opening is scheduled with constituents from local, state, and federal agencies probably showing up for this event. And we are asking for a straight closure from 10 a.m. till noon on West Kincaid Street along the side of the building there. So we'll close that one street off right in front so that we don't have any traffic and we can really make this a spectacular event for the community. And so staff is requesting the closure of that street on Saturday, September 28th. of Kincaid.
Please, council. Any questions on that one? How that'll be set up?
Are we gonna be able to park in
or
the parking
why?
garage?
Parking garage won't quite be finished yet,
Okay,
but
darn
it'll
it.
be,
We'll
there
have to
will be
leave some
parking
skid
in the
marks
area.
in there. Okay.
Yes. And the last but not least is 7th Street Neighborhood Block Party on Friday, September 6th. This block party has happened for several years and is continuing forward. The residents of North 7th Street between Fulton and Lawrence Street would like to have a neighborhood summer barbecue and asking for one block of North 7th Street to be closed 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. on Friday, September 6th. They will be keeping one lane open in the sense of no canopies, tents, barbecues, things like that, set up for emergency access if it needed, but they'll be blocking the street off, so no vehicular entrance will be allowed. So with that, this is the final one. Staff recommends council approve the recommended closures that you have heard this evening.
Council, full disclosure, the 7th Street party is my neighborhood. I'm not on the application. I don't profit from this party or barbecue.
Did you do the drawing of the street closure?
No, I didn't. Is it handwritten?
It is.
That's how
It
we
is.
roll on
Is
7th
this
and
a
8th
city
Street.
map?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Norm.
One quick question. How does the rest of the city and community get notified of these? Just so it's not a surprise to them of all these street closures? Like, do we post anything?
We don't currently post. Usually when you're there, when we do street closures, we run that through our traffic engineer, and so he looks at that and makes sure that there's proper signage that's going up so that we don't have people turning down a street and they run into a dead end, that there's notice ahead of that. So there isn't any place currently that we post, but we do proper street signage to let people know as they're going about town, things are different.
So those signs go up at the time of the closure?
Correct. Or some things, like if we're closing a street in advance, like for the Hoop Fest, we're going to put out signs a week ahead of time to let people know that certain parking places and street will be closed in advance so that they don't park in some of those spaces.
For the most part, we're talking about a minute or two out of your way, detour type of thing, but yeah, those are all signed.
Good question.
I'll move for approval of the listed street closures.
Second.
Motion by Mary, a second by Udis. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no.
Thank you.
They all passed, Jennifer, thank you. Item 6C tonight is an agreement with McKenzie, Inc. for Fire Station 1 design services, and Assistant Chief Brian Harris is going to introduce this item.
Good evening, Mayor, Council.
All right.
Before you tonight is a contract, a proposal to enter into contract with McKenzie Incorporated in the Phase 1 project of the Mount Vernon Fire Station 1 Fire Department, planning to locate that just south of the old library in the parking lot and vacates the Kwame Street area there. A month ago, we went through an RFQ process and selected McKenzie Inc. as a firm. We had two firms apply for the RFQ, and McKenzie was the firm that was selected for this project. The total cost of the contract and the project is $189,000. It'll be 20 weeks approximately to complete the project. It'll include program development, a design concept, cost estimate, a final report, and $15,000 has also been built into this contract for bond assistance. Staff recommends that council approve the mayor to enter into agreement with McKenzie Incorporated to begin the phase 1 of this project. Any questions?
Questions for Mr. Harris? No more.
I had a quick question. I asked you this last week, but I wanted a little more clarification. When I asked about the ground testing, and you mentioned that this would be part of this contract, but what happens if they find something that derails this site, this project? Are we investing money into a plan that ends up going nowhere?
So I think the best answer to that question is, in 2018, before we got here to where we are currently, we did a charrette with the community and the council and looked at several different locations in the city to determine what we thought the best site was going to be for the build of Mount Vernon Fire Station 1 in that process. And going through that process, we determined that the location that we're looking at, which is the parking lot just south of the library currently, looking at vacating Snoqualmie Street that runs right in front of the library on the south side, and the parking lot was determined to be the best area for that project. In 2018, the city did conduct 3 surveys, a survey of the site, an archaeological survey, and somewhat of a geotechnical survey that was done in 2018. What we would need to do with this project currently is have to revisit those surveys to make sure that they're meeting the current standards of what we're doing today. Also, you have new FEMA flood zone ratings since the flood wall has been put up, so we have to take that into account. Now, it could possibly come back to say, well, yes, we could build there, but maybe the cost is going to be too astronomical per se. I don't know the answer to that currently, and what the needs would be to make that site suitable to build upon. So I think that moving forward, when we do those surveys or update the survey, we get the information back, we get the cost estimate back, we look at all of those things, and then we make a determination from there. Is this where we want to proceed, or perhaps we need to take a look at what other properties are available around the city that meets the needs of our response capabilities for the citizens and where that station is placed.
And normally I wouldn't step in, but just as a reminder, on the Mount Vernon Library Commons site, we hit 3 fuel tanks and we had to remove them and we had to clean up. And that was mostly reimbursed by the Department of Ecology when it came out. The cities doing the hard lifting on sites when there are things discovered is oftentimes reimbursed. We also know the sort of soil landscape because we're currently building a project that's only 2 blocks away. Mm-hmm. So we know like kind of what we're getting into there as well.
Thanks, Isaac.
Yeah.
And you want to do your due diligence so you can disclose all your environmental issues up front in your front-end documents before you go out to bid, so you get an honest bid, rather than dig and then have an unforeseen condition and a change order that you didn't anticipate in your budget. So.
I just bought a used vehicle and did a buyer's inspection before. It was $100, but it was well worth finding out ahead of time what could go wrong.
Is that that green Corvette?
Yep, green Corvette. Yeah, that's it.
Nice. And just to add a little bit further clarification to your question, Counselor, we provided those previous studies that were done to McKinsey, so they've had to look at them already. And so they're providing me back information on we need to update these certain things so we can move forward with that project.
Other questions?
I have no other questions. I'll make a motion that council approve the mayor to enter into the contract with McKinsey, Inc.
Second.
Motion by Melissa, second by Gary. All those in favor?
I have a question.
Yes, I'm sorry, discussion.
Yes, of course, thank you. Assistant Fire Chief Harris, thank you for bringing this. We've all been looking forward to this for quite some time, so exciting to see it, and it looks very thorough, and went through our competitive process, and things are really shaping up. Last week, we had a chance to get a briefing from you on this, and we had talked briefly about including city council through some of the steps, especially as we're going through what I think is characterized as task 2, sort of conceptualization, program development. And I just kind of wanted to build on that a little bit with just thinking about, we'll have the base programming for the fire department, which really the fire department professionals will tell us what they need on that. And then we'll also consider some input from other departments about, what would the police presence look like in that facility? What kind of IT might be necessary? What kind of community meeting space, et cetera. And those are all excellent amenities that will, if we included them, would add cost, of course. And most folks are aware that we've gone to bond with this once already, and some members of the public felt it was too expensive. And I know that this whole council wants to make sure that we have a facility that is absolutely perfect for this year's fire department and the next couple of generations of fire department, and make sure that we have a cost-effective proposal that the community will embrace and will get, easily over the finish line when we go to bond. So I want to make sure, and this proposal that came to us on August 2nd before we had a chance to talk at the last meeting or two, but I hope that you'll be able to incorporate plenty of time with council to also hear about those pieces and to talk about costs and trade-offs before we get through task 2 and get into final design or preliminary designs and those kinds of things. So I just wanted to ask if that could be incorporated into your scope as we move forward. And I don't need specifics, but just know how important that is moving forward for the public.
Yeah, I think the best opportunity in what you're referring to would be for council to be involved in scope and needs assessment. That's where your input is going to be, I would say, best used and valued. That way McKinsey is intaking your guidance and your suggestions into the design concept itself, along with the other departments and the fire department included. That way we have a better picture of what we're all wanting together to move forward, and hopefully they'll be able to conceptualize that and give us a cost estimate when we reach the end of this first phase.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? All right. We have a motion on the floor. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. All right, motion passes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Item 6D is an agreement with TSI for traffic data and analysis and development services. Director Stacy Pratchner has this item. Hello, Stacy.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Thank you. So this evening, Development Services would respectfully request that the council authorize the mayor to enter into a contract with Transportation Solutions, Inc., or TSI, to collect data and conduct preliminary analysis in support of updating the transportation element of the city's comprehensive plan. The proposed scope of work from TSI includes an overview of the roadway networks in the city, and with a projected finish date of probably December 2024 to complete that data collection. Council will note that the transportation element of the comp plan, kind of broad, high level, achieves 2 goals. It contains an inventory of our existing transportation networks, and then it also contains projections of future routes that we're going to need to serve a growing community. So TSI's work is going to help us in evaluating and looking at those goals as we go into the periodic update of the comprehensive plan. Council also note that the city does have some existing contracts with TSI as well. They help us out in development services with traffic concurrency and evaluation for development projects, and they do some work with public works as well. So thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions about the contract or the recommendation.
Questions for Stacy? Councilmember Beaton.
I just wanted, when I'm looking at this, I went back to look at exhibits A and B and even C, and they're empty. Like the scope of the work, the compensation. I don't know if maybe I missed something. So on pages 11.
The scope is down a little bit further on page 16 and 15.
Yeah, I saw that, but I mean, I don't think there's nothing in like A that says that it's down below. Exhibit A, exhibit B.
Thank you for pointing that out. Those pages should have been removed before this draft made it to council, because all of that information has been integrated into Exhibit A, which is the actual scope of work.
Okay.
Which is the on-call service order from TSI that also includes the map in there. Got it.
Good question. Other questions? Yeah, Councilmember. Van
Yeah, thank you. So I see in part, and I'll keep this very brief, and maybe it's good for a follow-up conversation.
Sure.
Or if I could actually just meet with TSI at some point, that would be amazing. I see that there's 24-hour tube counts, and it's my understanding that traffic management systems have become quite sophisticated, where you can have infrared cameras that are put on poles that can track the number of vehicles, the size of vehicles, how fast they're going, which direction they're heading, and they can also do this for pedestrian bicycle traffic. I guess my question is, I would love to see a more comprehensive evaluation of traffic systems that's not just tube counting, although tube counting is super efficient. It's when you run over the stuff and it tells you how fast, how heavy a vehicle is and how many times they're doing it. I was wondering if that is a possibility, or if we in fact own any of our own traffic counting measures.
Okay. I would need to check with our Public Works team, since that would be within their management scope. So I can certainly find out from Public Works if we have those kind of materials. As far as it applies to the contract this evening, if it's council's pleasure, I can certainly go back to TSI and we can do some additional work on the contract. If it's your pleasure to have them maybe do some additional work for us that would include, like you had talked about, maybe some of the multimodal or some of that more sophisticated data collection.
Well, I wish that I brought this up sooner then, because I'm sorry to spring this on everybody. And I'm happy to hear from the rest of the council that they're not interested, but there's, I think that there's some questions around pedestrian and bicycle traffic and vehicle speeds that could be potentially answered by better data collection. And if that was a part of the scope of work, I would be interested in following through with that.
Council, is that something that you're interested in? Stacy, let me ask, and maybe it's a Public Works question. What would a change at this point do, just timeline-wise, if we wanted to expand that? And also, I'm sure Council's interested in an increase in cost and how that weighs into their decision.
Sure. So the one timing element that maybe is a little bit sensitive is we do want to get some level of service and traffic counts for the intersections, particularly around the schools and when schools are in session. And so there's some work there that is a little bit more sensitive to time. The subsequent data analysis and everything, that can happen on a further timeline. And December 2024 is just an estimate to do the work that it's been shown. It's not any kind of hard or regulatory deadline. So maybe what we can go back and retool is, look at some additional work TSI can do for us. Maybe we break up some of the contracted work a little bit. That's my initial thought. Maybe they can do some of that level of service intersection counts near the schools. We can do sort of a small contract for that, but then maybe renegotiate something a little more detailed.
Stacy, if a majority of council indicated they wanted to go that route and add to this, would we accept the agreement tonight and add to it later, or are we talking about amending what we're doing tonight?
Yeah, I would recommend that if the majority of council wants to move that way, that they don't authorize the mayor to sign into this contract this evening, and that we go back and do some additional work with TSI.
Council, would you like to discuss this? Thoughts?
Andrew, I guess I would have hoped that you would have looked at this prior to it. But I don't know, maybe it just spurred something that you saw. But, I mean, we've had this in front of us since Friday. And so I would have almost liked to kind of put a kibosh to some of that if I would have been able to hear what you were saying. But
Yeah.
now here we are in the 11th hour, ready to do a contract, and all of a sudden it's like, well, I'm not saying you shouldn't raise the question, I just wish it would have been a little bit earlier. So, that being said, I'm not against what you are talking about. I'm just saying, I would hope we could just do it prior to where we're almost ready to do an agreement, so.
I don't know where that leaves you as far as a vote.
Well, it kind of sounds like we would delay the vote, right?
If a majority of council sided with Andrew, we could delay it, or, yeah.
If I may.
Yeah.
The professional service agreement form has been reviewed. We've been on contract with this company for a long time. It's not gonna be hard to renegotiate if we need a new contract. They can plug in the scope of work, give us time and material costs, or we can amend it. I can't tell you which way I would recommend until I talk to planning, but I don't see it as being a hard lift, given our relationship. They know this agreement. We don't have to go through the language again. It's basically plug in your scope of work. We can present a new agreement to you, or we can just simply amend this with an increased cap for time and materials if it's gonna be the same people doing the same work.
Okay, that should be helpful for council. Still need a majority.
Yeah,
Councilmember Brooks.
I tend to
Thanks,
agree
Kevin.
with that. I
We've got a
wanted
really
to-
great working relationship with
Oh,
them.
yeah.
Go ahead, Councilmember Brooks.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure, I think I heard Andrew say that there's some other technologies which might be able to give us some additional information for some additional objectives that we have, right?
Correct.
So it seems like that's a good conversation to have for them moving forward on this, getting the data we need when school starts, and having that conversation to see back if there's some efficiencies and come back to us with that. Yeah, I'd like to hear some of that in a committee setting, what tools do they have? So, yeah, I'm ready to vote for this one and explore that question later.
Oh, to pass the agreement as is?
To pass what's in front of us.
The current.
And amended.
Oh, quick question. So this is a study of our city streets, our traffic patterns. How does that include any sort of amplification or widening of I-5? That's not controlled by the city, but that's certainly that affects traffic through
Absolutely.
Mount Vernon. Or would they study that issue of what the federal government would want to do with I-5? Would they present us with, what studies that the federal government is doing? Because we see three lanes end, at the outskirts of Mount Vernon, but we're seeing traffic get worse and worse through that corridor there.
Right.
And so whatever they do to widen that is going to affect whatever it is that we develop on either side of I-5.
Right.
Is that something that they would explore as far as what I-5 is going to look like in years to come?
Yes, so when a city's looking at its transportation network, it does want to take into account both pipeline projects and then exactly like you said, what's going around in the what's happening in the surrounding communities. So great resources for that locally include our local COG, Council of Governments, SCOG. They update and produce a regional transportation plan that they develop in coordination with the cities and WashDOT. So that document contains quite a bit of that information. But yes, that is part of the planning process, and TSI, even though I won't say small, transportation's a huge part of land use planning, but they're part of that element, and I-5 is inevitably part of that discussion. Thanks, that's a great question.
Council, are we mostly comfortable approving this agreement and with the understanding that we're gonna talk more about the scope with TSI in the future? And we'll put that down in the minutes and in our notes that that's an upcoming committee discussion, and we'll take a look at it.
Yeah, and once again, sorry for just dropping it. To be honest, I had looked over this and I hadn't thought about how this is maybe our chance, like the chance for this, and it just occurred to me that this is the time. So my apologies for not bringing it forward sooner.
I'm glad you brought it up. It's just, the timing was just tough, but as long as we include all that of what Andrew was talking about, I'm in.
And with that, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Andrew and a second by Gary. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. We will get it done. Item 6E is an ordinance for interim parking requirements, and Stacy Pratchner has this item as well. Stacy.
Thank you, Council. On that last item, I think there's a new city engineer in Public Works who would be really excited to help us out with these questions. So I'll tag him on that for our next yes committee meeting. All right, so moving on to the draft ordinance in your packet, and again, thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. So this evening, both the city attorney and development services want to present to council draft interim regulations for your consideration tonight. The proposed ordinance before you would result in updates to portions of the Mount Vernon Municipal Code that regulate the number of off-street parking spaces required for new homes, and the proposed updates also result in implementing local code that will implement the requirements of Bill 6015. This is the bill that was fairly recently passed by the state, which sets some new rules and regulations about what we can allow or what we can require developers to do as far as garages and improving services for existing parking areas. So respectfully, the department would recommend that the city council consider the updates in your packet this evening, and at your pleasure, you can approve, deny, modify, or remand the draft back to staff, and we will continue to work on it based on any guidance that you have for us this evening. So the council will recall that these interim regulations are presented pursuant to the city's emergency ordinance regarding housing that council adopted earlier this year. The regulatory framework that contemplates emergency actions such as this draft ordinance is found in GMA and state law. The legislation authorizes the city council to adopt interim emergency ordinances. Now, this type of way to change code is a different rulemaking process than the classic GMA legislation process that most of us operate within as far as rulemaking. An emergency ordinance does not include a public participation element before its adoption. It's only after adoption, and we have that 60-day public hearing to move that forward, that we begin that process. So because that part of that rulemaking doesn't take place, that means that the draft in front of you this evening hasn't been subject to any public input yet. It hasn't been reviewed by the Planning Commission as the legislative advisory body to give a recommended action to City Council. It's coming straight to council for review and for interim adoption. So those typical GMA legislation procedural steps, if it's the council's pleasure to adopt the ordinance this evening, then we have laid out a schedule to go through all of those steps. So this evening, for your consideration, there's three sections of the ordinance, broad sections of the ordinance for council to contemplate. So the first are the recitals on the face of the ordinance itself, and those provide justification for the emergency declaration and for the reason to adopt these interim regulations. And you'll see that we've put in some proposed language in there about why reducing parking requirements can help encourage some additional housing production and also mitigate some of the development cost associated with building new homes. The second item for your consideration are the proposed red lines themselves. So those include the updates as just discussed pursuant to 6015. That includes limiting the amount of improvements required to existing parking spaces. So this is the legislation coming down from the state. It includes a description of the amount and parking surface materials that the city can require. So think existing gravel. In a lot of cases, you go ahead and keep that existing gravel if that's what you got. And it also includes eliminating the requirements for garages and carports to meet the requirements for off-street parking for residents. So the second part of the red lines, you'll recall this is some of the work we did together at DS Committee. And those are proposed reductions to the number of off-street spaces, parking spaces, for new single family and duplex homes. So we're going from the 4, and it would take us to the 2. So this change, if adopted by council, and I know we've had a chance to talk about this before too, that brings us a little more in line with the parking requirements of the surrounding jurisdictions here in Skagit County. So third section is the shortest section for your consideration, and that's contained in Exhibit A. And in conformance with state law, we've developed a draft schedule to adopt the regulations permanently, so going through that classic rulemaking process that we were discussing. And that would take us, and we'll want to get to that within a year if we decide to do, if it's your pleasure to do the interim adoption this evening. So I appreciate your time, and myself, or I'm sure our attorney would be happy to answer any questions about procedurally the emergency ordinance or the content of the red lines.
All right, thanks. Questions for Stacy or Kevin, council?
What's the ordinance?
The ordinance would be 3894.
I think Richard has a
Oh,
question.
yes, Councilmember Broxman.
A quick clarification.
Yes.
From the attorney, city attorney, but whoever's appropriate. The first red line in the ordinance itself and there's some examples following it, deletes the exception for our development services director to reduce the amount and type of required off-street parking for affordable housing units and senior housing developments. And I think that's just a cleanup, because there's other places in the code that provides authority to the director to do that. Because we obviously want to continue to have that discretionary authority at the director level. I just wanted to clarify that this is a cleanup, not a removal of that authority.
My office's focus was to set up the prima facie case for the emergency. The substantive changes that you see were developed by your development services. I did review them to make sure it complied with your new 6015 enforcement obligations. And the way I looked at this just organizationally is it looks like staff took each parking restriction that was by residential zone, R1, R2, R3, took it all out and put it all in one place, which is in your section 8. But I can't tell you with personal knowledge whether or not this removes any discretion by development services to further reduce it beyond the 2. I just don't have that knowledge.
Maybe Stacy
I
has.
can answer that question. So yeah, you're absolutely right, council member. So the code in other places provides the director authority to grant, it calls it, the wording's a little strange, administrative variances. Sorry, Kevin, that's what it says in the code. But yeah, by a certain percentage that I can, have the ability, whether it's a setback or a parking requirement, or we can accept a parking report that demonstrates less parking is needed. So yeah, lots of off-ramps, I would say. So yeah, cleanup item.
Thank you.
Yeah,
And I'll
thank
just wrap up my comments tonight by saying this has been a while in the making. Development Services Committee's been working with the director and city attorney and the mayor on looking at sort of normalizing our minimum off-street parking requirements with adjacent jurisdictions in the county. And that's what's produced these red lines. We've had several conversations about it. We wanted to make sure there weren't unintended consequences. We know that this is just an initial step if we approve this tonight, and that there's a work plan to continue to look at that. And of course, over the next year, we'll be updating our comprehensive plan, and we'll probably have further discussions about parking as we move forward. But this should be seen in conjunction with an earlier interim ordinance we approved that essentially reformed our accessory dwelling unit code as another step for Mount Vernon in trying to help facilitate, plan for, accommodate appropriate new housing development that fits in our neighborhoods and not impacts other levels of service. So I'm super excited to see this after a few months, and thank you to all the staff and the mayor and the city council for talking about it further.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, staff. Other questions for Stacy? Comments? Or motions for ordinance 3894?
I'd like to move for the approval of ordinance 3894, right? Thank you.
Second.
Ooh. I mean, we're gonna have to go back to the video slow-mo on that.
Second.
A motion by Mary, a second by Gary, because he said it twice. Any discussion on this item before we vote? All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. All right, ordinance 3894 passes. Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council.
Item 6F is the adoption of proposed 2024 to 28 solid waste rates. And I believe our city solid waste manager, Andy Hansen, is here for this item.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council.
Hi, Andy.
In front of you, or I believe you have an ordinance accompanying with you as well. Recommended action to ask the City Council to authorize the mayor to implement the 2024 to 2028 solid waste rates as stated in the accompanying ordinance. As you know, city contractor Chris Bell presented recommended changes to the 2022 solid waste rate study due to significant increase to county transfer fees. city salary, schedule increases, utility administrations, material, supply increases associated with the current economic state resulting in negative solid waste utility fund balance. Boy, Chris put a lot in there.
Shocker.
Shocker.
Seriously.
Finding conclusions, by implementing the solid waste rate utility, the solid waste utility enterprise fund will increase its balance to 1.2 million, which is a 17% of its operating fund, and provide approximately 3 months of operating capital in case of emergent issue arises. This is in line with the city's general fund balance reserves. Recommendation, City Council to authorize the mayor to implement the 2024-2028 solid rates as stated in the accompanying ordinance.
Andy, I appreciate you get to close this out with a council presentation, because you've been on this for months, shepherding this through.
Years.
Council's discussed it at length, which I've also appreciated. You've adjusted the rates to benefit some of our economically distressed residents, which is awesome. Questions for Andy on this, or comments on the rate study and change?
Good question.
Nabor, yes, sir.
What was the amount of the capital investment for the covering for the trucks? What was that cost?
Repeat that again for me, so I make sure I can.
The capital investment that we want to make.
That we, for the truck board?
Correct.
I believe we are 500,000 was an
500,
estimate
okay.
that we're on to move forward in 2026.
Other questions, comments?
I'd move to approve ordinance 3895.
Point of clarification, Your Honor.
What was it?
Yes.
I've just noticed that this ordinance notice was produced pursuant to the recitals on July 26th, and then you have an effective date on September 1st. By operation of law, it cannot be effective at least 45 days prior to the first notice. I don't think that's 45 days.
We had talked about moving it to October, but I thought that
So
might have been
your
worked out
effective
by
date
you
is
all.
not compliant with the law, so I would just ask that you modify it. The ordinance shall take effect 45 days after notice provided on July 26th.
Yeah.
So you can actually enforce it.
Okay. So with that amendment to ordinance 3895, is there a motion to approve with, as amended?
I move to approve.
Still in.
I'll second.
Motion by Gary and a second by Melissa. Any discussion on this one?
I think we
Councilmember Broxton.
did very
No,
good.
I just wanted to say that we talked about the rates prior. It's not reflected on the ordinance that we have in front of us. Just, it didn't carry through
On the 95 gallon
Yeah.
cart, so we'll make sure that that is adjusted
Okay,
on that
okay.
ordinance.
All right, is that doable legally? I mean.
Yeah, if you make a motion to modify the ordinance as proposed to
Okay.
reflect that, and
Okay.
it's approved by a majority of the whole,
Okay, thank you.
and you've amended your legislation.
Do we need to do it over again now?
So we've got a motion to modify, I need to go back to my Robert's rules. Motion to modify the amendment to include the changes that council recommended for the 95-gallon carts.
Second.
We might as well throw in at this point, and to include that it will take effect 45 days after the ordinance passes. Is that right, Kevin?
It
That's
shall
the
take
language we want.
effect 45 days after notice was available on July 26th.
Okay. Yeah, yes.
And you got your motion in your second, Mr. Mayor?
I got a Mary made the motion.
Okay, I thought Gary did, I don't know. Just pick a
Gary
name.
made the
I
original
made the motion to approve as is. Now we've done amendments.
We've done as amended, okay.
Mary has the amended
Okay,
motion.
thank
Is there
you.
a second for that amended motion?
I second it, but I actually have another, I'm just kidding.
Good. Is there discussion on the amendment?
Thank you. And I just wanted to really note for the viewing public, that we've been looking at this for quite some time, and we've really put Andy and Chris and his team through some paces on, how much reserve fund is enough versus too much. We've got that reduced down to 17%, which is less than what the a couple of years ago, the contractors had recommended to us. There are a couple of capital items in there that we've taken a hard look at that we think will, really help our staff in the work they're doing. We are getting there's a 26% increase in tippage fee, happens to be coming through the county, just that it costs more to get rid of garbage, to haul things, everything's gone up. So we've tried to reduce those costs as much as possible. We took a couple extra weeks to look at the impact to, as the mayor said, our I guess they're citizens who qualify under the county assessor program for reduced property taxes. We adopt that program at the county level and use that same list of folks to reduce the cost for this solid waste disposal at the city level. And we made that cost increase sort of equal across all of those bins so that it was equitable and nobody was getting, very few people were getting any difference. They were treated equitably. So we have put a lot of time into this. We've done the best we can with the increasing costs. It's not an easy thing for any of us to do, but we've ringed out all the pennies we could here. So I just wanted to say that, and everybody knows how great our solid waste team is. So with that, I yield the floor back, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for the extra minute.
You bet. Other council member comments or discussion on the amended motion? Yes, Councilmember Beat.
Thanks, Peter, if I may. I just want to make sure that the public understands, Richard is correct, it was a very tough decision for us to make. It is a significant increase, but I hope that we don't look at the county negatively. We have to pay based on the rates that they set for the transfer station. But if we were to do that work ourselves, our solid waste would be significantly more, and I don't want to lose sight of that. So it's just the cost of living has gone up. The cost of garbage has gone up so much. So that's all I want to say.
Thanks for both of those comments. Other discussion? Okay, council, I want you to be crystal clear on what we're voting on. There's an amended motion on the floor, so we're adding a couple of things. We're adding the 95-gallon cart rates that we agreed on previously, and we're adding language for the 45 days for these rates to take effect. That motion to do that was made by Mary. It was seconded by Andrew. And all those in favor can signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. And the motion passes. And so that motion that Gary made and Melissa seconded was amended. I think we need to finally vote on the final amended ordinance. And if I'm wrong, at least we're being safe. So council, motion and seconded, ordinance 3895 as you previously amended. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. All right, I think we got it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andy.
Thanks, Andy.
Thank you, Andy.
Item 6G is an amended agreement with OAC for additional construction management services for the Library Commons project. And it looks like our finance director, Doug Valesky, is going to present this item. Hi, Doug.
Hello, Mayor. Hello, Council. I'm here tonight to present these next couple that Chris Phillips isn't here to do, so bear with me here. But anyway, city staff recommends City Council authorize the mayor to amend the Mount Vernon Library Commons construction management contract with OAC by $148,941 for construction management services. OAC Services was contracted to provide project management services from March 1st, 2022 through completion, which was expected to last through February of 2024. Due to issues arising with utility coordination early in the project, design changes during construction, and material supply chain issues, Change Order 1 was issued to accommodate substantial completion delay until June of 2024. And final completion in July of 2024, and the end of the warranty period in Q3 of 2025. At present, substantial completion is expected in September of 2024, with final completion in October of 2024, and the end of the warranty period in Q4 of 2025. OAC is seeking to amend a contract to continue providing project management services through closeout and the end of the warranty period in 2025. Mount Vernon Library Common OAC contract amendment is required to coordinate and facilitate dynamic communications amongst principal contractors and city staff in order to complete the project in a timely manner. City staff recommends City Council authorize the mayor to amend the Mount Vernon Library Commons construction management contract with OAC by $148,941 for construction management services.
All right, questions for Doug? Entertain a motion to approve the amended agreement? Yes, no vote.
How does this affect our budget with the library comments? Like, where does this $148,000 come from?
So there was anticipated that we would be having overages in this, and based off of what our current funding is, we have federal fund, we're actually overfunded, so we'll be okay. There won't be any additional costs to the citizens, which I'll kind of talk about in the next one.
Yeah, both of these next two items are frustrating but funded with outside funding. Entertain a motion to approve the amended agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Navor, second by Yidis. Any discussion on those? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. And the amended agreement passes. Item 6H is not an action item, but we want to keep council updated on those changing costs. Doug has more info.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, just, I'm going to make a little change here to the memo that's on here, just to correlate with the agenda that the staff is providing an update of overall costs, and there is no required action for you tonight. So, but anyway, city staff wants to inform council and the mayor that the overall project costs for the Mount Vernon Library Common project from $53,452,505 to $61,113,739. There will be no financial impact to Mount Vernon residents, as all costs are covered by the combination of federal funding, state, and county funding sources. As we were talking about these in the past, when I was giving updates and stuff, I think the numbers I was throwing out were going to be, by the time we're done here, it's going to be around $60 million. That's kind of what this is. This number also includes 3% contingency still on top of that. Later on, there will be a budget amendment that I will bring over, an ordinance for council to approve once that project gets closer to completion. But anyway, City Council was previously briefed by Mount Vernon Library Commons Construction Project Manager, OAC, in June of 2024, noting the increased costs associated with the Buy America, logistics, and supply chain management delays. Although the Mount Vernon Library Commons overall project costs have increased, they are 100% covered by federal grant funding and will not adversely affect the general and/or enterprise funds. So again, city staff just wants to inform council and the mayor of the change in project costs from $53,452,505 to an estimated $61,113,739.
Questions or discussion on that item for Doug? We are grateful to Doug, your staff, Chris Phillips, his staff, especially former Mayor Boudreau, for going through the fire to get these federal funds in Mount Vernon so that overages like this are covered and aren't an impact to our residents. That is huge, so we're grateful for that. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
There is no more business for item 7. I'm going to ask our city attorney, Kevin Rogerson, to call the mayor and council into executive session.
Thank you, Mayor. I invite the mayor and members of City Council to enter into an executive session on the grounds of discussion with legal counsel regarding enforcement action, litigation, or potential litigation to which the city, the governing body, or any member acting in an official capacity is or is likely to become a party, when public knowledge regarding such discussions are likely to result in either adverse legal or financial consequence to the city pursuant to RCW 4230-110 subsection 1I. The time for executive session would be 15 minutes. We would convene at 7:55 with no action and open session afterwards.
Thanks, Kevin. With that, we will adjourn the City of Mount Vernon City Council meeting for Wednesday, August 14th, 2024 at 8:40 PM.